Welcome into the Gridiron Grind College Football Pod this week, episode 5 of the season. Creta 3, Jimmy G. Jimmy, RIP to the Razorbacks' perfect season. Took one down last week to the Fighting Mormons. But it's, like we're talking about, it's tough to beat a bunch of 40-year-olds when your team's 21.
That's what I told the guy in the stands. He was, I think BYU had a pretty good defensive game plan. Our O-line didn't look good. We couldn't really run the ball. And they tackled KJ very well, really well, as a matter of fact. That's the first game he looked kind of human, so to speak, where he's not spinning out of tackles and bouncing off dudes. And one of the guys and his son were talking about it, and I just leaned back and said, well, you got to remember, man, I think these guys are 40. These are grown men out there. And they all kind of laughed and just trying to make a lighthearted of the situation. But, the general consensus after the game was, well, now I guess we just got to go beat Bama. So,
they're looking vulnerable.
Hey, what a year. That would be, this is our year. We're going to beat him. Arkansas has not beat Nick Saban since he's gotten to Alabama.
Tell you what, Jimmy, nobody in the state of Arkansas will remember losing at home to BYU if you beat Alabama.
That's right. Yeah. That whole team, it'll be amazing. It'd be amazing. This is, like you said, this is our year if we're going to do it, because we'll get into it a little bit in the show. But this is our year if we're going to do it.
Yeah, I think, Alabama didn't look great last week. A lot of teams did not. A lot of the big guys did not look great last week. Florida State, Alabama, Texas. All three of those teams ended up winning, but it wasn't pretty. Alabama made a change at quarterback last week, and they went with Tyler Buckner, the transfer from Notre Dame. Jimmy, he was 5 of 12 for 34 yards and looked just pitiful. They made the switch to the redshirt freshman Ty Simpson, 5-star. He looked better. He did throw a touchdown, but neither one looked as good as Jalen Milroe. And Saban already came out on his press conference Monday and said, we're going with Milroe. Part of me thought is like, well, we'll give these guys a shot, but it's also maybe to shut some of you doubters up that was so mad at Milroe for throwing 2 picks against Texas. Part of me thinks he's like, listen, I'm going to show you how he's our best option. These guys stink. And maybe that's what he did. So Milroe's getting the start now. And I think he definitely looks by far the best quarterback for Alabama.
I think that's, like we said, it was telling the beginning of the year when Nick Saban did not announce his quarterback. He said, well, he's kind of him-hawed around it. Nick Saban's very cut and dry. If you've ever watched him do an interview, you know that he doesn't sugarcoat anything. He tells you like it is. You talk to anyone who's been recruited by him, they all kind of say the same thing. He comes in straight to the point, not a lot of fluff. And when he was wishy-washy, kind of seesawing on his quarterback, you and I talked, I said, oh boy, that's why we took that Alabama under 10.5 wins, because when you've got one, he rarely goes undefeated. But 2, when you've got problems at quarterback, that's a recipe for losses. And this is the first year he hasn't had Hurts, Tua, Mac Jones, Bryce Young, an elite quarterback. He doesn't. And you're exactly right. There's problems in the quarterback room down there. And I don't blame him for going to Milroe. I mean, that's the best thing you got.
I think he's the best
thing you got.
Although I do think Ty Simpson will eventually end up being pretty good. And I think if you played Ty Simpson the rest of this year, you might take some lumps, but in long term, he would be better for it, and you'd probably be a lot better next year. Problem is, he's already lost a game, and he can't really afford to lose another one. So I think that's why he's going with Milroe, who started once last year and a couple years older, has some experience being the backup. Also, Colorado didn't look good last week after all the noise Coach Prime was talking about, selling the sunglasses and everything. They go out and put up a stinker against Colorado State, but in Shedeur Sanders fashion, he was calm and collected, poised when it mattered most. Said he went Brady mode, threw the touchdown, tied the game, got the 2-point, and then went into double overtime, ended up getting the win. So Colorado, 3-0 to start the season, but it's going to get a little tougher for Coach Prime and the Buffs the next 2 weeks at Oregon and then USC.
Yeah, and one more thing on the Alabama, it would not surprise me, like you said about Simpson, We saw Dabo do it with Ukulele and Klubnik.
Oh yeah.
Would not surprise me once Alabama is out.
Yep.
If you see Nick Saban make that change, doing exactly what you said,
Great point.
preparing the next guy up for the future. And then back to Colorado. Yeah. You know, you and I talked before we came on air. You've got teams, one, your defending national championship teams, Georgia, Alabama, teams like Texas, leaving a conference, they're pretty sore about it. And Colorado, you're going to get everyone's A game every week. Since again, like you said, they did not look
Yep.
as good against Colorado State. Well, Colorado State's playing all out, right? I think a lot of these coaches don't like Coach Prime and what he's doing. I love Coach Prime and what he's doing. It's something different, something new, and he is being honest. He's not sugarcoating it. He told them kids, kick rocks, you suck. Yeah, I mean, people go, well, you can go about it a different way. You can, but at least he was honest. All those teams I mentioned, week in and week out, are going to get, especially as we get to the conference, but you're going to get every team you play's A game. You've got to play up here. That's been the common denominator for all the successful teams. I go back how far you want to. They all play up here. They don't dip and rise and dip and rise to their competition. And Colorado is about to hit two of their toughest games back to back with Oregon and USC. And this is going to be these two games are going to be the tell the tape, because a lot of these guys, like I said, Oregon and USC, they're used to playing Power Fives here in and out. Deion's working with a whole new roster. And you can see them getting physically and emotionally wore down, having to deal with this. So it'll be a test. I tell you, Colorado comes out. If Colorado finds a way to win the next two, mark them down. They probably are about to go. They're in the playoffs. They're in the playoffs.
No kidding. If they find a way to win these next two,
yeah,
that would be something. I don't think they do. I think they lose them both, but we'll find out. That's why we play the games. Let's take a brief look at this week. This is probably going to end up being the most high-profile, best weekend of games of the season. I mean, this is the day to just do nothing but watch football. Not me. I'll be at a wedding. Fall weddings could be one of the worst things ever.
Oh, dude.
When it comes to events. I mean, fall weddings. So, but here's the slate of games that I will be missing because I'll be at a wedding. You got.
Dude, I would. You're looking kind of pale, bro. You may need to. I'll take you to the urgent care.
You're right. I think I am coming down with something. I might have to. It's a 3-hour drive for this wedding, so I would definitely find a way out of it. Problem is, my daughters are in the wedding, so it's gonna be tough. It's a tough look.
I don't know
if I can get out of it.
Driver's license.
Maybe so. I don't know.
Yeah. Between now and then, get your wife her driver's license, and she can drive down. I mean, because if you're sick, you don't need to be driving the vehicle. You know what I mean? So
get you. Probably the doctor's only prescription.
Yeah,
gonna be sitting on the couch watching football.
We'll call Dr. Lou Holtz. He'll see what he can prescribe.
So these are the slate of games this week that I'm going to be missing. Number 2, Michigan's hosting Rutgers. That's a big game because Rutgers is undefeated. So, number 4, Florida State at Clemson. Number 10, Oregon hosts number 19, Colorado. 11, Utah hosts number 22, UCLA. Number 13, Alabama hosts number 15, Ole Miss. 14, Oregon State is going to number 21, Washington State. Both those teams are trying to play for an invite to the Big 12 next year. Number 9, Notre Dame hosts number 6, Ohio State. And number 7, Penn State hosts number 24, Iowa. Not to mention, Horns are on the road at Baylor, and the Hogs playing in a rivalry game against LSU. The slate of games this week is just incredible. It's going to be a great day of football. This is the week that it's going to be the prime week of the season.
Yeah, this is the week you don't want to miss. Not trying to rub it in, but it is the week that you don't want to miss. I mean, like you said, Michigan and Rutgers. I know what you and I both believe is going to happen, but hey, Rutgers is undefeated, fighting Greg Schiano's.
Yep, they play hard.
They do play hard. Florida State at Clemson. I mean, that one, my games that I think I'm really going to be tuned into: Alabama, Ole Miss, aside from the Arkansas game, Alabama, Ole Miss, Florida State, Clemson, and Oregon and Colorado. I think
Yep.
those have
Notre
pretty
Dame,
big
Ohio State,
implications. Do
and then
what?
no Notre Dame and Ohio State at
Notre
night.
Dame, Ohio State. Yeah,
Oh
I
my
mean,
gosh.
I think though for me, those other three games, there's
Yep.
pretty big implications on Florida State getting a big test. Colorado trying to keep the success train running, like we said, they find a way to win this and next week. It's a big game for them. Alabama, Ole Miss. Alabama trying to right the ship, trying to figure things out down there against Ole Miss team that doesn't have issues at quarterback, doesn't have issues at running back, and I firmly believe every time they play, Lane Kiffin will always try to give it, run the score up, beat him as bad as he can. Because you remember when they left him at the stadium
Yes.
after the game when he was the OC, Kiffin was late for the bus and Saban drove off and left him and fired him. So
I want to ask you about Lane Kiffin's antics this week. He always pulls something with Saban because I think he tries to get under Saban's skin a little bit. Have you heard what he's done this week? Where in his Monday press conference, he says that he doesn't think the DC is calling the plays anymore because the defense was so improved between the Texas game and the South Florida game, and he knows Kevin Steele and he's known him for years, and he said there's no way he's calling the plays anymore, that Saban is having this other guy call the plays and didn't tell anybody, and so that's how they're going to prepare. I don't know if he believes that or not, but he's like trying to create this just so much insecurity among Alabama and Alabama fans. Of course, Nick Saban ain't going to fall for it. He already
right.
addressed it and said, basically like I wouldn't listen to anything Lane Kiffin says about our team, what we're doing.
Yeah.
So what do you think about Lane Kiffin? He just tries to stir the pot, and it gets kind of funny sometimes.
And those are the antics, whether it's your coach dancing with the players in the locker room, it's whatever the coach wants to use to motivate his team, it works when you're winning.
Yep.
And it's all fun and games with Kiffin when you're winning and scoring a bunch of points. And like you said, Saban's not gonna fall for it. Evan Steele, however, I answer your question. I think it's hilarious. I think it's great. It's
Yeah.
whatever. It's a competitive advantage. Even if it's just a little bit, whatever gives you a competitive advantage, go for it. Teams will let the grass grow up to the exact height that it has to be. Why? Well, the theory is it slows down a team if they're faster. Competitive advantage, whatever. It's only crazy if it don't work. Kevin Steele might have taken that to heart. Said, "Okay, I'll show you if he is calling the plays." Now maybe he calls some stuff out of his normal rhythm.
Yep.
That allows Ole Miss to capitalize a couple times, and then boom, it worked. So I think it's funny. That sounds exactly like Lane Kiffin, and good strategy. Whatever it takes to win.
Whatever it takes. I mean, he hasn't beaten Nick Saban, so
Right.
anything you can do to try to win. I think it's funny. Nick Saban won't fall for it, but you're right. Kevin still might fall for it.
Yeah.
Let's get to our questions of the week. We got a couple questions. And you can send us your questions and go to gridirongrindsports.com. You can comment on the video here on YouTube, go to our Twitter, Instagram, however you want to get the questions in. Keep them coming in, and we'll pick the best ones each week and answer them here on the podcast. Also, ask questions about the NFL and Cowboys, and we'll address that on our NFL Cowboys pod, which comes out on Thursdays. First one for you, Jimmy. I put out an article earlier this week, and this question's about that. It says, "Hey, Jimmy." Oh, first it's from Kenny from Royce City, Texas. Kenny from Royce City, Texas.
Okay.
It says, "Hey, Jimmy, Creta put out a list of his rankings of the Power 5 conferences so far through 3 weeks of the season. Do you agree with his list, or how would you rank them if you think differently?" And just to say, I ranked them. I had the Pac-12 first, I had the ACC second, the Big Ten third, SEC fourth, and the Big 12 fifth. But I think the Big 12 is way below the rest of them. Now, probably people are scratching their head about me having the SEC fourth, but they're also like 2-5 against the ACC. They have a losing record against the ACC and the Big 12. and they just haven't looked good. To me, the SEC, it's Georgia and a bunch of teams that are going to lose multiple games. So that's why through 3 weeks I have them fourth. And I think the Pac-12 is by far the best team. I think they're head and shoulders above everybody. Now, this is through 3 weeks of the season. So that's how I have them ranked. How would you rank them?
You know, Trey, I think you covered it, man. I wouldn't change it at all. Pac-12, I think, is the best conference. Look at how many teams they've got ranked. Of
Yep.
the Power Five, they've got 8 ranked teams. I mean, golly, USC, Washington, Oregon, Utah. Okay. Those are the teams just in the top 11. Utah's 11. Okay. So and then like you said, the ACC, they've got 4, but their 4 is pretty good. The Big Ten's got 5. The SEC actually comes in with the second most at 6, but I agree, it's everyone chasing Georgia. Now it's where Alabama was, just a couple years ago, and really since 2009, it was everyone chased everyone. It was Alabama and everyone else. Everyone chasing Alabama. Now it's flipped to Georgia. Yeah, I think.
Well, what's
I
interesting
think you
about
ranked them perfect.
the 6 SEC teams that are ranked, 4 of them already have a loss.
Yeah,
So they've already had a loss. They lose one more this week, and a couple of them might. Like, they won't be ranked next week. You're not going to be ranked with 2 losses this early in the season.
right.
So I don't know. I just think
Yeah,
the SEC has underperformed through the first 3 weeks. That's why I have them fourth. The Big Ten is so top heavy. Like, the bottom of that conference is so terrible, as is the ACC. But I rank the ACC second because they have a winning record against everybody but the Pac-12.
Mhm. Yeah, and like I said, I agree with it. I think it's the Pac-12 right now. One, like we said in one of the earlier shows, the Heisman Trophy is on the West Coast. I
Yep.
think Caleb Williams has got it again right now, and
Michael
you're
Penix
gonna have
Jr. at Washington, he led the
yeah,
country in passing last year. Quietly again, no one's talking about him. Doing it again. I mean, Washington is a team now. And then Utah doesn't even have their starting quarterback yet. Cam Rising
right.
it's 50-50 whether he makes his debut this week against UCLA. I mean, Utah's done what they've done without their starting quarterback.
And exactly. So that adds another offensive piece. Again, we saw what he did all last year and in the Rose Bowl till he gets hurt. And yeah, I think the Heisman Trophy is in the West Coast right now. It's going to take a Mack truck to pull it out of there. And it just falls right in line with the Pac-12 being the best conference. So yeah, I think it was Kenny. I agree. I think Trey's got it. Trey's got it pretty well ironed out, and they can't say you're a homer, Trey, because Big 12 last, and then oh well, SEC. Well, the SEC's fourth, so it's
Yeah.
not like you're being a homer. I think it's accurate.
How bad does the people at the Big 12 right now feel? Their only 2 ranked teams are Texas and Oklahoma. That is not what they
I
want.
mean, no, it's not what they want. Man, it's one of those tough pills to swallow. Like everyone, well, we're just as good, and like you may be at a couple years, but Texas and Oklahoma, Alabama, USC, Ohio State, Michigan, there's blue blood programs, Notre Dame, and they're always going to be blue blood programs. It just the way that the
Yep.
the chips fell, and every now and then you can get an RG3 in Waco, you can get a Colin Klein in Manhattan, you can get some of these guys, you can get Gary Patterson at TCU, but eventually it all evens out and it goes back to, especially now we're ended up NIL and transfer portal. I mean, it can only benefit these larger schools. So yeah, I don't think they want it to be Texas and OU, but it
But
is what
also,
it is.
think about this. This is how bad the Big 12 has been. They have losses as a conference. They have losses to Rice. They have losses to Wyoming. They have losses to Miami of Ohio. They have losses to Texas State. They have losses to Ohio. And they have losses to South Alabama. South Alabama rolled Oklahoma State last week in Stillwater. I mean, there is some bad losses in this conference already. I mean, Rice would be 1-1 in the Big 12 right now. They lost to Texas and they beat Houston. Wyoming would be 1-1. They beat Tech, lost to Texas. I mean, think about that. Those
Yeah,
teams would be in the middle of your conference. This is a bad conference this year. And it's, to me, I think it's going to be Texas. And as of right now, it's going to be Texas, Oklahoma, and Arlington at Jerry's World first weekend in December. And that's exactly what the Big 12 does not want to happen.
yeah. I think that's the way it's heading too. Those are the two best teams in the Big 12, pass the eye test, and it's just one of those. What are you going to do? You may not like it, but that's how it is. So great question, Kenny from Royce City. Okay, Creta. This question comes from Brian from Frisco via Twitter or X, whatever you call it. Brian says there does not appear to be only one team or even 2 to 3 teams that are standing out as the best so far this season. Who do you think are the best 4 teams in the country right now?
It's a good question because there really hasn't been just one dominant team, I would say.
Mhm.
I mean, you got to start with Georgia. They're undefeated. They're the 2-time defending national champ. They struggled last week against South Carolina, and I think that created some red flags. They were even trailing that game at one point. I don't know if it was in the second half, but I think they beat South Carolina 24-14. It wasn't pretty. It was their real first test. They didn't play anybody the first 2 weeks, even though they got a double-digit conference win. So you got to have Georgia up there until they lose or come down a little bit. You got to have Georgia up there. Both of us had Michigan as our preseason national championship pick. They've done nothing to change my mind. They played 3 nobodies. They won all 3 handedly. You don't know anything about them because those 3 teams, that was nothing. So Michigan's number 2 for me. So Georgia and Michigan. Number 3, it's got to be for me, USC. I don't know how you feel, Jimmy. They haven't really played anybody either, but the way they've dominated and the way they've got better every week, the offense, I don't know if there's a team in the country that can stop that offense. Maybe Georgia, but I don't think Georgia has a defense they've had the last 2 years. I just don't know if anybody's going to be able to stop that defense. But on the other side, or stop that offense. But on the other side, their defense isn't great. I think their defense might be better. They might be average this year, which is a vast improvement. But they haven't really played anybody either. They play Arizona State. That's not a big contest. Arizona State lost to Oklahoma State, and Oklahoma State just got smoked by South Alabama. So we really won't know more about USC until next week when they play Colorado. But to me, they have dominated the teams they're supposed to dominate, and they have dominated them. So USC 3, 4 and 5. Texas is 4 for me, only because I think they have the most impressive win so far this season on the road at Alabama. Say what you want about Alabama not being as good and might be down, which is probably true, but it was Nick Saban's worst home loss since he's been at Alabama. I mean, a double-digit loss at home. Texas has the most impressive win of the season, in my opinion, and they would be 4 for me, even though they often struggled against Rice and struggled against Wyoming. They looked really good offensively against Alabama. So I got them 4, just slightly ahead of Florida State, would be my 5th, because I think they have the second most impressive win, and which was against LSU. Reason I put that second behind Texas win over Alabama is because it was basically a home game. It was neutral field, but it was a home game. Florida State looked very impressive, but I think Florida State looked really bad last week against Boston College, only winning by 2. We're probably lucky to win that game. And I think even though Texas didn't look great against Rice and Wyoming, they still won by 3 touchdowns, more than 3 touchdowns. So I would go right now, Georgia 1, Michigan 2, USC 3, Texas 4, Florida State. What do you think, Jimmy?
I have that same order, except for I swapped Florida State and Texas. But I think for the same reasons too. You exactly said. I think Georgia, you got to have them up there, defending national champion, undefeated. Michigan's impressed. USC, again, we talked about it. Caleb Williams trying to, and right now I think he's in the lead for. He's trying to become the second person to ever win the Heisman Trophy twice. First being, of course, Archie Griffin, Ohio State. And then I go Florida State, and then I go Texas. I don't discount or I don't discount Florida State so much for that close Boston College game because it was the red bandana game. It's
True.
what I talked about. We talk about that every year. You've
Yep.
got a Penn State whiteout, and you've got the red bandana game at Boston College. And that's what I talked about in my write up on JG's Big Three. I was like, I'm not touching the spread because it's the red bandana game. I took the over, and that hit, and that was why. I think Florida State has been slightly more consistent than what Tech said. Like you said, like, well, they struggled, but they still won by 3 touchdowns against Rice, struggled against Wyoming, had the big win against Alabama. It's a slight edge for Florida State to me.
I
But
agree with
like I
that.
said, teams are the same. Teams, I think you could flip a coin on the last two and be fine. That's
I
my
agree.
personal. So we have the
It's
same
paper
top
thin.
five.
And also, Florida State, it was a road conference win. So, I mean, anytime you go on the road in conference, it's just a little bit tougher. And so you're right. You probably shouldn't dock them that much. They're going to be judged on what they do this week. And that's
Yeah, I was about to say,
at
here's
Clemson.
another tough road game as well, conference.
If they come out and beat Clemson by 2 touchdowns, no one's going to remember they barely beat Boston College.
Mm-hmm.
After that, I would think Washington's got to be up there. I mean, they dismantled Michigan State on the road. I know Michigan State, coach problems, fired their coach, off the field stuff. But Washington looks good to me. They beat Boise State big. They beat Michigan State big. They look good. They look real good. Other than
I
that,
agree. Washington and then Penn State. To
Penn
me,
State,
right after
they got to
them.
be up there. You
Penn
think you'd
State's
have Penn State above Ohio State right now?
yes,
I agree.
I do. I'd have Penn State above Ohio State. Ohio State to me seems like a team that's just kind of waiting. They're holding on and everything's still going right. I think the power has shifted over to Michigan in that conference,
I agree.
and just seems like you're always just kind of, to me, I'm just always watching Ohio State waiting for the shoe to fall, waiting for the wheels to fall off and them to just their season to be over. So I put them. I go from after Texas. I personally, like you said, go Washington, and then I go Penn State over Ohio State.
And then Notre Dame. I mean, we're going to find out. Ohio State, Notre
Yeah.
Dame is going to be one heck of a football game this weekend. I think Notre Dame's pretty good. I think this is the best quarterback they've had at Notre Dame in a really long time. The transfer from Wake's Forest, Sam Hartman. I think he's really good. I think Notre Dame is really good. I think Notre Dame's going to win that game. I think is a 3-point spread. Is Ohio State favored?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Ohio State's favored by 3.
Notre Dame's getting 3 points at home. That's going to be a heck of a football game. And you'll figure out who's better right there after this week. Ole Miss, they're still undefeated. That was an impressive win against Tulane on the road. So I should probably give them a little bit more credit than I have. I mean, they probably might round out my top 10. We'll find out, though, Ole Miss and Alabama this week. If Ole Miss is legit or if Alabama's better than what people are giving them credit for. We'll see. That's a big one. I mean, that's a huge – think of the stakes of the 4th game of the season, September ball game for Nick Saban and Alabama. It's almost, for playoff consideration, it's a must win.
Yeah, it's almost win or go home.
There's never been a team with 2 losses made the college football playoff in the 4-team format. So for that, it's must win. For the SEC, it's not a must win, but it's going to be tough. I mean, that's not an easy conference. If you drop your opener. So that's a huge game, Alabama Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And let's say Saban does take away some calling duties, defensively maybe. You'll kind of get to see. It wouldn't surprise me if he did. It wouldn't surprise me if he did because, like we're saying, this is like a win or go home. No 2-loss teams ever been in. This would be Alabama's 2nd loss. You know what Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin are going to try to do. They're already trying to do it, any way they can with the kind of rumor and stuff. So it wouldn't surprise me if Nick Saban went, yeah, I'm going to call this defense because it's not working out and da-da-da. And you may see a completely different Alabama team. And if you do, you go, okay, Alabama's kind of back on track and trajectory for the rest of the season looking up. But if they lose this game, like I said, you may see, maybe not immediately after this game, but I don't think it'll be long before they'll have Simpson or one of those other quarterbacks in there besides Milrow.
Big, huge week, like we talked about. If you're not at a wedding this week, you get to watch football. Lucky you. Your boy's going to be doing. Oh, hey, I got a question for you. I asked my mom this question. Do you think it's too much if I brought now my phone? I don't have 5G on the phone. I have an iPhone 10, so I don't always get great service. But I have an iPad, and my iPad's got 5G. Is it too much? So the wedding's at 5.
Okay.
And so I'll be at the reception probably by 6. Is it too much? Is the iPad too much to bring at the table and have my iPad? Because I got 5G. So even if there's not good service in the venue, is it iPad too much to bring to get the games up during the wedding reception? I'm not confident there's going to be TVs with football games on.
So I'm going to say no. And here's why. Because worst case scenario, it's just you watching it. Your daughters are in the wedding, your wife's not in the wedding. It's not like you're going to be up there on the big long table with the bride and groom. You be at a table off by yourself, propped up on the centerpiece that, I'm sure you really take notice of the centerpiece and the runners and all that stuff. I don't see anything wrong with it. Best case scenario, and I say best case depending on what side of the fence you're on this. Best case scenario, there's a lot of people going, thank you so much for bringing this.
But I think that could be a problem.
Get you a table. I've seen this happen before. I've seen this. You and I have been at weddings where this has happened before, where we have been at the table with the phones and there's a crowd around us. And yeah, it takes away from the wedding. But if that's all it took for it to take away from the wedding, the people that are around us, I mean, they're not really there for the wedding anyway.
I know. And see, that's what I'm saying. The phone, you can hide a little bit more. It doesn't stand out as much. Yeah. But that's what my fear is. If I bring the iPad, there's going to be people like, oh, thank you for bringing the iPad so we can watch football. And then it's going to be a distraction and I'm going to get in trouble. The wife will shut that down so fast if I become
to me,
a distraction at the wedding.
The wedding is about the ceremony more so than the reception. I mean, you and I are both married. The wedding is for you. The reception is for everybody else.
It's true.
Right?
That is true.
Everybody else. Maybe you don't have the volume up, right? Maybe you're not yelling, getting real loud and reacting.
Because I can wear my AirPods so no one else can hear it but me.
Yeah. I don't see anything wrong with it as long as you're not drawing more attention than it's just going to cause sitting on the table. Don't I say turn it off during the big moments like first dance, mother, son, daughter, daddy, cake cutting,
See, what I might do is I might go iPhone for that because I can hide that, dim the lights. No one will see me. I can hide the phone. No one's going to watch during all the big moments. And that way, I can look up and won't be a distraction. And then when the dancing starts and all that stuff's over, I might bust out the iPad.
Yeah. Is it open bar?
I'm not sure. I think so.
But there will be alcohol served.
Yes, there's alcohol.
Okay.
Yes.
But at the point that the dance floor opens up and everybody breaks out, you've had the majority of the significant, I think, if I remember correctly, then the cake cutting comes after all that. But at the time the dance floor opens up, that's also usually when people that are going to leave early go, man, it was good to see you.
That is true.
They bounce out too. So that point, in my opinion, it becomes a free-for-all. As long as you're respectful, not shouting during big moments. Yeah. And even after the dance floor opens up, you're not over there going, let's go. I think it's fine. I don't see anything wrong with it.
All right. Well, I'll report back next week and we'll see how I go and what strategy I go with. Because I'd love to watch them all, but definitely, the Horns play at 6:30 against Baylor.
Yeah.
I'd love to peek in on that Notre Dame Ohio State game as well. The good thing is we're at Airbnb, so I will get to watch all of the 11 o'clock games and most of the 2:30 games.
Okay.
So
there you go.
I do get that, but then weddings at 5, gonna have to get there. I don't know, 4:30. So at least we'll get the 11 o'clock games in the first half of the 2:30 games. And then it's all the night games. I'm going to have to really figure it out, come up with a good strategy. So I'll report back and see what we go with next week. So,
and I tell you, you can also kind of backdoor this. Go to the father of the bride.
Okay.
See if he has an issue with it. This is how I usually get. Sometimes the DJs are really proud of themselves and won't play songs that I request. So I usually go get the mother of the
Sure.
bride to go
I
up
don't
and
think the
request.
dad's going to care as much. I think, the mom and my mother-in-law. So it's my wife's cousin
So
getting
this
married.
is why I
So I
said
think
you
it's
go
going
to
to be
the
more
dad
than
of the bride, because then it's still someone in an authoritative, hey, dad's right, the check is coming from that side. Dad is one
true.
half of that check. You know what I mean? So, hey, he signs off on it. You can go, hey, you know, Ben or Phil or whoever, he said I could. So there you go.
Worst case, I'll just have to go to the bathroom a lot, I guess, and I'll just be propped up in a stall with my iPad. Just
Well, man, IBS is no joke. So I don't,
that's what I'm saying. But I got a bad case of the IBS. Sorry,
yeah.
Where's Trey? I hadn't seen him in an hour and a half. Oh, IBS
IBS flaring up, bro.
flaring up. All right, we'll see the strategy I pull out this week. Let's get to the last segment of the show. It's our bets of the week, and man, it was a rough week for us.
Mm-hmm.
Grind last week. We got 1-3 for myself, 2-3 for Jimmy. Not our best week, not good, but we were both talking. Now there's been 3 weeks. We feel better this week. We have some real data to go off of. We've seen these teams in action. We have a better sense of what teams are going to be. I think we're going to have a good week this week. I think there's a loophole this week. I think Vegas has brought some totals down. I really like a lot of overs this week because I think Vegas has brought some totals down, and I think there's an opportunity for us to hit some overs. So we'll see. So on the season, I'm 6-7. Jimmy's 5-7. We're about to get that turned around. Stick with it. If you want to fade us early, go for it. I'm just telling you. I mean, we've been doing this show for how many years, and I think we've had a winning record every year. So
winning record every year, and I think this is the week, not just because it's us, but I think this is the week that we break over 500.
I agree. I think we get over the hump and then we get on a roll. And it's similar to what we did last year. Last year we started hot and then we just stayed hot. We had like a 5 or 6 week run where we just were hot. And then we just kind of rode that to the end. And we both had very good winning records at the end of the season. So feel great about this week. Jimmy, I got 4 this week. How many you got?
I got what we got here? 2, 3, 4. I got 5.
5. All right, I'll let you start since you got one more than I do.
I go on Thursday night. I'm going back to the well. Georgia State, Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina's favored. I'm going to stay away from the spread on this one. I'm going over 63. Both of these teams score in the 30s and 40s. Georgia State, I think, is really good. I think Georgia State actually wins this one outright. But I'm going to take the over, and that's 63. And that's a Thursday night game.
Thursday night game. Got to get that one in. Georgia State. 2 very good teams. I think that's going to be a great game on a Thursday night. If you're a fan of the group of 5 teams, it's going to be a good game. My first one, I got all Saturday games. 11 o'clock, Florida State, Clemson, over 56. I like the over 56 here. Like I said, I think Vegas has brought some of these totals down. I think there might be overplaying some of the clock issues. But I think you got to remember, a lot of times early in the season, defenses are ahead of offenses. It takes, when you're higher level of play, it takes offenses a few weeks to get clicking, get in a rhythm, figure out how they're going to do, especially when you have new quarterbacks, new coordinators, new systems. I think that's going to be the case here with Clemson. I don't think they're going to be a juggernaut offensively, but Riley can call some offense. I think both offenses, Florida State and Clemson, are finding their stride. Clemson, now they only scored 7 in their opener against Duke. They stunk it up. What have they done since? They've scored 66 and 48. Now against 2 terrible teams, Florida Atlantic and Charleston State or something. But I think Klubnik's playing better football. There's playmakers all over the field. You got Klubnik at quarterback for Clemson, the running back Shipley, Florida State, Travis, who's been phenomenal. Then those 2 receivers, Wilson and Coleman. Coleman transferred from Michigan State. I think having this in the 50s is too low. I think it definitely gets to the 60s. So I like Florida State, Clemson over 56.
I like that one as well, and I'm going to stay in the same game. I like Florida State -2.
Love it.
I think Florida State has played better competition. I think Florida State's the better team. And I just see Florida State, again, like you said, tough road win. against Boston College last week against the red bandana game, and I think this week it still goes on. I think Florida State's might sneak into the playoffs, man, and this is going to be one of those wins they got to have to do so. I think Florida State -2 in this one's my take.
I think this could be what we were talking about earlier. This could be an overcorrection for how Florida State looked last week against Boston College. I think Vegas has brought it down and giving Clemson more credit for being at home and Florida State because they had a close win. But like you said, red bandana, road conference game, weather wasn't great. I think Vegas has it wrong here. Said that last week with Pittsburgh, West Virginia, and we were both way off. So, but I think this is different. I think Florida State is a good team. And I think they bounce back.
And again, Vegas is human. Now they're
They
very
are.
good. They're very good humans at doing this. They're better than us. That's why we don't own casinos and have our own town. But they're going to make mistakes, like you said. Every now and then you can catch them.
Yep.
Like you said, over adjusting, or maybe they aren't. They don't have someone like we said earlier. Really studying Marshall's offense type stuff. It doesn't take long for them to correct it, but if you can hop on and you can find it, if you can find the needle in the haystack and find the team, might be Georgia State this year. I don't know.
Could be. You might be on.
Eventually, they correct it.
Yeah, sometimes it does. I'll never forget a couple years ago, Marshall. It's like we're not giving Marshall credit, and they won like 7 or 8 in a row, and we got it every week.
Mm-hmm.
We rode Marshall. They did it with San Diego State back in the day, so they do miss some, and maybe they'll miss that one. My second game, another 11:00 game, SEC game, Kentucky on the road. I do not like doing road favorites, but I've probably done more road favorites through the first 3-4 weeks than I've ever done. But Kentucky at Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's terrible. They lost to UNLV last week. Week before that, they got blown out to Wake Forest. I just don't think Vanderbilt's very good. Now, we both have season win totals on Vanderbilt over 3.5. That is not looking good. They're 2-2. We would need 2 conference wins. They did that last year. We need them to do it again this year. I just don't know. Kentucky hasn't played anybody, but they got quarterback Devin Leary transferred in from NC State. He's pretty good. He's turned the football over early, so I worry about that. But the difference here is Vanderbilt is awful against the run. And what has Kentucky been able to do? They've been able to run the football. And that's where I think the difference is. And I do think the clock might come into play if Kentucky gets up. So it's -14. Kentucky gets up 2 touchdowns, gets another one in the fourth quarter. And if they get a stop and they say they're upset, Kentucky's up 17 or 21, they can run that clock out. And I really feel like that's how this game's going to play out. And I just think Vanderbilt stinks. I really do. And so that's kind of what I'm basing it on. I think Kentucky's a solid football team, and I think Vanderbilt stinks. So I like the Kentucky Wildcats -14.
I'm going to stay in the SEC as well. Ole Miss, Alabama, Ole Miss +7. Give me Ole Miss +7. Alabama has got problems with quarterback position. And anytime you've got problems with quarterback position, that's a recipe for disaster. Lane Kiffin, high-scoring offense. Again, he's going to be trying to beat Alabama, Nick Saban. He's going to be trying to put it to him. And I think Ole Miss comes out on top. I think Ole Miss is better. I think Ole Miss is the better team at the skill positions. I still think Nick Saban is best college coach to ever do it.
Yeah.
But I think Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin get him this week. Ole Miss +7. Give me Ole Miss +7. This may be a close Alabama win, but it wouldn't surprise me Ole Miss wins this outright.
Also,
so
think about
+7.
what did benching Milroe last week? What did that do to his confidence? I don't know, but I don't know if it helped it. I mean, it could have hurt it. I don't know, but yeah, we'll see. And like you said, Lane Kiffin gets a chance to beat Nick Saban. He's going for it.
Saw what it did to Jalen Hurts' confidence, didn't you? He transferred. Yep. So
exactly.
All
right, my third game. This is going to be a great game. It's a night game, so my last 2 are night games. Appalachian State at Wyoming. Wyoming's favored by 2.5. It's in Wyoming. This is going to be a really good game. The total is 43.5. I think that's way too low. Appalachian State, Wyoming, over 43.5. Now, Wyoming's starting quarterback, didn't play last week against Texas. His name is Andrew Peasley, and you saw what he did in that huge overtime win over Texas Tech. He should be back this week. All the reports say they're expecting him to come back and start. It's still going to be a game time decision, but it looks like he's practicing. It looks like he's going to play. If not, the backup played decent last week against Texas. Texas, I do think, has a really good defense, but he played well. Wyoming is averaging 33 points a game their first two. When they don't play Texas, they were averaging 33 points a game. Appalachian State's defense is nothing close to Texas. I mean, they've given up, they've scored a bunch, and they've given up a bunch. Appalachian State, Jimmy, is averaging 41 points a game the first three games, and they've played some teams now. They played North Carolina, scored 34 against North Carolina. Appalachian State can score. I think Wyoming definitely can score at home. I think 43.5 is way too low. I think Vegas is thinking it's going to be the backup for Wyoming, but everything I'm hearing, it's a good chance Peasley plays. So give me Appalachian State, Wyoming over 43.5.
I like it. I like it. That does seem really low to me. I'm going to take an over as well, Trey. Oklahoma, Cincinnati over 57.5. I'm going to finally hop on the bandwagon. I know this will make DC happy. Oklahoma's offense, I'm ready to say, is better than I thought they were going to be coming in. Dylan Gabriel looks like he's figured out there's more than one read.
500 and something yards last week.
Do what?
He had over 500 yards passing last week.
Yeah, I think he's figured out, no, there's a second read, maybe a third read, and I think you've seen the offense explode because of it. Over 57.5, OU, I mean, they may score that themselves.
They've done that two of the three games they've scored in the 60s.
That's right. I think
66
this
and
over's
73.
low. So give me Cincinnati, Oklahoma. Give me over 57.5.
All right. It's a good pick. My last one, night game. It's Memphis, Missouri. Over-unders at 52. I'm going with another over. Give me over 52, Memphis in Missouri. Missouri quarterback Brady Cook last week in the win against Kansas State, 356 passing yards. Now, their whole offense, he was a little banged up, but again, it sounds like he's going to play. He played the whole game against Kansas State, and he's just a little banged up. I think it's an ankle injury. But their whole offense revolves around him. He's got a stud receiver in his sophomore year, Luther Burden. Burden through 3 games. He's got 22 catches, 300 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He's averaging 7 catches a game, 100 yards a game, and a touchdown a game. I think Brady Cook, I think he gained a lot of confidence because last year was all about he lacked confidence and was up and down. I think he gained. I watched the highlights of that game and just reading the reports. I think he gained a lot of confidence. It was his best game. It's only in his second year. I think the offense running through him, they're going to sling the ball everywhere. And listen to Memphis. Now, Memphis defense has been spectacular the first 3 weeks, but they've played nobody. Last year, Memphis against the pass was ranked 101 against the pass last year. I don't think they've improved that much. I think it's just been a product of the teams they've played. This will be their first real true test of a quarterback and an elite receiver. So I think this over. I think Missouri might even come close to getting this over by themselves. And you know Memphis, they got their quarterback Seth Hannigan. I believe he's from Texas as well. I think he might be from Denton Ryan. Not 100% sure there, but he's in his third year starting, and Memphis is known for throwing the football around. I think this game gets as a high scoring game. I like Memphis, Missouri over 52.
I like that. Yeah, Memphis. Scored 28 last week against Navy. They gave up 24 against Navy. Kind of blew my under. So yeah, I like in the Tiger Bowl there. I like that over, Trey. I'm going to buck the trend here. My last one's going to be an under. Iowa, Penn State under 40. Weather conditions, I think, have this one low. We know what Iowa's defense is. We know what Penn State's defense is. Both of these teams have been better offensively, especially Iowa. Again, they get the Michigan transfer quarterback, and so I think he's going to be trying to really come out and sling it and really do something and try to really upset Penn State. And you're thinking, well, duh, right? That's his job. When you try and really extend, you take risks. Penn State's defense is good enough to capitalize on those risks, and I think they get it done. And I think it's low scoring. I think both defenses show up. And I think Penn State wins this one maybe 27-10, maybe 23-10.
That's a good guess because I was going to say, does Iowa get to double digits? And we know how good the Iowa defense is, but their offense may be slightly better than it's been, but it's not much better.
Right.
And is this the whiteout game for Penn State?
I don't think
It's a night game. I don't know if it is or not. If it is, I
It
love
might
that.
be.
I love it even more. Either way, I
I'll
like
look
it
that
because
up.
Iowa is. I mean, usually when Iowa scores double digits, it's because they got a special team or a defensive touchdown. And if they don't get that, they really struggle to get into double digits. They just don't score a lot of points.
Right. Yeah, I don't.
Not sure if
I
it's the
just don't
whiteout game.
see. I just don't see Iowa. Yeah, it is the whiteout game.
It is the whiteout game. Even better.
And so that's another thing. I'm just like Penn State's going to be ready to go. Iowa, McNamara is going to be trying to do too much. That defense is going to be able to capitalize. Iowa may not score. That's another thing. Iowa may not be able to score. Penn State might just take it to them, and I can see this one hitting under. Like I said, weather's calling for rain. Of course, it's early in the week, but bad weather equals under. Bad weather, two good defenses. Give me the under.
I like that. Good reasoning. All right. For the recap, we got 9 picks for you. Jimmy, Thursday night, got Georgia State, Coastal Carolina over 63. Then on Saturday, Florida State -2, Ole Miss +7, OU Cincinnati over 57.5, and then Iowa Penn State under 40. And then for my 4 games, all on Saturday, I have Florida State Clemson over 56, Kentucky -14, Appalachian State Wyoming over 43.5, and Memphis Missouri over 52. Feel great about it this week. Could be
that Tiger Bowl bet. I really like. I might take that myself.
I like it because I just think Cook got a lot of confidence, and that's what he needs. He's shown the potential, and he's got a stud wide receiver. And
That's
Memphis
good
can sling it.
That's good because next year he'll be in the portal.
Probably true.
All of it.
Probably true. Anyway, get over to gridirongrindsports.com. Follow everything we got going on. Jimmy G's Big 3 up, posted every Wednesday for his 3 additional bets. I also have Coffee with Creta. The video comes out every Saturday morning with 3 to 5 additional bets I have for myself. Also got some blogs coming out. I posted one earlier about ranking the conferences through 3 weeks. I'm also got one up on Thursday morning posting breaking down the best teams who I think legitimate path to the playoff. So I'll have that up there. Get over to gridirongrindsports.com. Also listen to the podcast on our YouTube channel and also on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram. Get over there. Check us out. Also, Thursdays at noon, we have the Dallas Cowboys NFL podcast that comes out on YouTube and Apple Podcasts. And then our Dallas Cowboys live post-game show after every Cowboy game. We'll be doing that. They play the Cardinals this week, so we'll be right after that. Should be another blowout for the Cowboys. So, going to be a great week. Jimmy, I envy you getting to watch football all day, all night.
And we found a loophole for you, and I've even
sure. I'll report back on my strategy.
Some key strategy points there. Like I said, go to the father of the bride.
Okay.
Do that.
I'll
father
maneuver.
Of the bride.
I'll maneuver. I'll find a way. No excuses.
I believe in you.
We will succeed somehow, some way. We will overcome and conquer. Fall weddings could be the worst.
Yeah. Get a globe, man, or a calendar or an atlas or something. Don't be having fall weddings.
I asked about it, and they said, they wanted this particular venue, and this was the first open date this was back in the spring, I think, or even before the spring. It might have been around Christmas. It's the first time this venue that they wanted was open. This
sounds like a recipe for sometime 6 months after the wedding, them going, we should have just took the money and eloped.
I think almost everybody says that.
Yeah.
This is no exception. We can't all be as smart as you, Jimmy.
Just got to take the money and elope, man.
Yeah. I remember, we were engaged for 18 months. It was a long time.
Yeah.
Odd, odd decisions have to be made in 18 months. I had a buddy in college. They got married they got engaged, got married 3 months later. And it was like, y'all are crazy. And like they had like a full-blown wedding. And he said, no, I'm not, because 3 months is going to suck, but it's only 3 months. After that, it's over.
Mhm.
Great point. We had family conflicts. My brother Madison was playing baseball at Texas at the time, and we couldn't have it. We had to wait till after in case they made the World Series, and then the dates didn't work out, so we had to do it the following summer. And then which they did make the World Series, so luckily we did it a couple weeks after the World Series. So yeah, we were engaged 18 months. It's a long time.
But you didn't, wasn't in the fall.
Was not in the fall. That was an option. I said, nope, go around the next summer.
Yep.
I'd rather be engaged 18 months than have a fall wedding.
Exactly.
So, all right. Creta 3, Jimmy G. Thanks for listening to another episode of College Football Podcast here on the Gridiron Grind Sports Network. Jimmy, we'll see you next week, bud.
See you next week, buddy. Go Hogs.
Hook 'em horns.